Howdy there, folks. This is Lapidary Dave. And right now I'm going to be taking these pieces out of the tumbler. They've been tumbling for about 76 to 78 hours on and off. Then I'll wash them off. And then show them off. Okay, folks, took all the stones out of the tumbler and put them in this container full of water. Silicon carbide is pretty heavy stuff and it will fall and easily separate from the gemstones. So I'm going to go wash these gemstones off and talk about them and show them off. I will recycle these BBs, but I will not recycle the silicon carbide. Everything's going to get a washing. These tumblers, these containers, the lids and washers and such that go on the tumblers. Alrighty. See you after I clean up. Okay, folks, I'm back. These are the beautiful tumbled gemstones. Let me dry something off here. Anything's fine. I'll do this carnelian because I like to look at it. Okay, if you see here, the dry spots on the top, it's more like an orange peel. And no scratches. Completely burnished the stone in the tumbler using the 80 grit. This is a stone that I got tumbled at the Albuquerque Gem Show. And in the same batch of tumbled goodies from the same person, I got this stone. This stone was as finely polished as this one. I put it in the tumbler at 80 grit for about 1 hour to show you what kind of finish I'm going for. Because I'm leaving my gemstones in the tumbler for such a short amount of time, I'm more or less looking for a burnish than a grind. However, in the 3 days that these were in here, any scratches that were there have been removed. This is about the finish that this used to look like. Usually if I was relying on the tumbler to grind away mass pieces of rough and bigger scratches from saws and such, this would take weeks. The tumbler didn't get everything, such as this piece of aventurine, which is very surprising considering how hard it is compared to everything else. Let me wet this really quick. Use a drop of coffee. It's hard for me to show this camera, but there's some saw marks there that even though they're burnished and have been abrased, they're still not ready. And if I put this in the 220, they still might be there. And then I will finish this gemstone with some saw marks. And to me, it's a bit of a disappointment and almost not worth the time. Anyway, I will finish this one by hand. This is not the only disappointing stone amongst the tumble batch. One of the very few only other ones was what I considered the sweetheart of the bundle, this agate. And there's some deep scratches right there in the front. I don't know if those scratches are from a saw. They don't look like it, and they don't look like they're from a lapidary wheel. Perhaps this was against something very rough and got abused by a different stone. There is a fracture mark here, which I pretty much know is the case in this fracture. Something really hard was beating up on it in the tumbler for hours. That's what happens when you don't tumble stones that are the same hardness, though. Something's going to get beat up. But I'll finish this off by hand. It's worth it. This is a beautiful piece of what I believe is Montana agate. I love those speckles right there. That's beautiful. Some things that I was psyched about. This I was definitely psyched about. This piece of copper ore is actually grinding at different amounts. Like the copper looking stuff, the ore, the red, actually is grinding faster than the green. And this creates a beautiful texture to the stone, as well as a beautiful polish. Some spots are translucent, and this I could not get using a lapidary grinder, just grinding it and finishing it on a wheel. This stone definitely tumbles better than it grinds, in my opinion, at least for this finish. It's beautiful. This is a good example of a good finished piece. I grinded this on the hard wheel and on the soft wheel, both at 80 grit. This is a piece of that clock agate, an agate that was a big clock, big slice. This was one of the hardest pieces amongst this bowl here, and since this took the finish, was a big indicator to me that the whole batch was done. I looked and everything was. Just over 3 days. Anywho, I'm going to take these sweethearts back into the garage, put them in the tumbler, load them with the charge. I will not be using the plastic pellets anymore. I only use those for the rough grind when my tumbler is under about 2/3 of the way full. See you there. Going to the garage. Okay folks, I'm back here with these beautiful tumbled stones. I'm gonna load these up. Trying not to put too many of the larger pieces in any one of these tumblers. Same thing with the smaller pieces. Alright, I'll get on that. Okay folks, these tumblers are filled about 2/3, maybe just over 2/3 of the way. I'm going to be hitting them with the charge of this 220 silicon carbide that I got from Santa Fe Jewelry Supply. Use a mask, avoid ingestion, avoid eye contact. All of those so very true. Good phone number there in case you do any of those things. Keep away from children, please. This is beautiful. You don't see too many containers of silicon carbide giving you this thorough of a warning. It's awesome. Gonna put my mask on. Okay. I'm gonna put 6 scoops. This is the bigger of the 2 traditional house spoons. I don't remember if that's the table or what, or the tea. That's 6. Again, some people may see 6 scoops too much or too little. Different tumbling strokes for different tumbling folks. Some people say the only problem with using too much silicon carbide is that you're wasting it. Some people say that it can cause the stones to stick to the side if there's a big sludgy mass of unused silicon carbide. This is what I do with pretty great results. Unlike the 80 grit, this is doing, at least the way I use this 220, is less for a grind and more of like a burnish. I just want them to get finished with the 220. I don't need any removal of material. I don't need anything to be shaped. Just trying to get it to 220. A lot of stubborn stones that I can't seem to finish on a lap. Fantastic feeling. There's only one or two less stones out of these two tumblers than there were when I started. But just the amount of material that the 80 grit has grinded really loosened these tumblers up and they feel fantastic. Anywho, I'm going to slap these sweethearts on this Harbor Freight tumbler. Rock and roll! See you folks in a day, maybe a day and a half.